So I'd like to talk about our supposedly flagship brand, Sunshine and Hoppiness. I say supposedly because as a brewer you don't get to choose what your flagship brand is going to be. A customer out there decides that's the one they're going to want to buy, and that makes it your flagship. So Sunshine and Hoppiness was the first beer that we envisaged when we started Drop-In Brewing. If you go down into the basement of my home, you'll find a whiteboard with the word Sunshine and Hoppiness written on it. And that's been there for the last 10 years. So it's an idea, a dream, a name that we've had in our minds for a very long time. The beer style, it doesn't really have one. And that's caused us a few difficulties in terms of getting it entered into competitions. We've tried to enter it in the Great American Beer Festival a few times and found that it doesn't really fit into anyone's idea of a traditional category. We arrived at the recipe for this by sitting down and thinking about what people really like about beer. We broke it down to the four main ingredients, well, the three main ingredients in this case, because the water is what we are going to brew with. It's the water that comes out of the taps in our brewery, and it's part of the identity of Drop-In Brewing, so we tend to leave the water alone. But we thought about it, and we decided, or we learned, or we imagined that people enjoy the malt character of German-style pilsners. When you talk about characteristics of beer and break it down into the different types of experiences that people have with the raw materials, with the ingredients, the bready, doughy kind of malt character that's associated with German pilsners is the one that comes to mind most readily. We also understand and appreciate that people are rather fond of the aroma and flavor of Cascade hops. Cascades are very versatile. They provide a balanced and clean bitterness, not too harsh, not too dull, not too lingering. They, depending on when you add them, can manifest as floral or as citrusy or as like the flavor of roses. And geraniums as well. And so we use them at 4 different times throughout the brewing process. First of all for bittering, secondly for flavor, then for aroma, and then we dry hop with them as well. So we get all the different characteristics that they're capable of manifesting in a beer amalgamated into one type of beer. We also feel that people are kind of intrigued and interested by the flavors that come from Belgian yeast strains. So we brewed this beer with 2 different Belgian yeast strains. The first one is a traditional Belgian Abbey strain, and that one is a little bit finicky. It doesn't quite always give the types of flavors we want, and it doesn't always ferment all the way to the very end to give a nice dry beer, which is kind of the other target for our brewing with this particular ale. We found that a more reliable substitute for that was a brewing yeast from the Ardennes region of Belgium. And that gave us prolific fermentation, but again, flavor compounds weren't always exactly predictable. What we did find was that we could get great results by blending the two together. They cover up for each other's faults and flaws, and they reliably perform in a predictable way when working together to make this beer. It's extra work for us, and we are limited with the number of times we can reclaim and reuse this particular yeast, but it really seems to give us the flavors that we really want. The other thing about this particular beer is I'm remembering back to the very early days of learning to brew and being a professional brewer in the UK. And there was a special beer that was advertised on television as being a little bit more expensive than regular beer because it used the best and the finest ingredients. I would search this beer out and try to find it wherever I could because I particularly enjoyed the flavor, but I also enjoyed much more about it than that. It seemed to me that the brewers were taking the extra care to make a real quality product and were passing the extra cost along to the customer, but you didn't mind paying it because you knew that you were getting something special. The beer was golden in colour, beautiful to look at. It had bubbles rising up through the beer to form a beautiful head on top. It smelled, the aroma of it was noble hops and pure, clean, bready malt flavours and aromas that came off of the glass. They served it in a special chalice-shaped glass with a gold rim around it and the name of the brewery embossed in the stem. Looked a little bit like this one over here. The beer was Stella Artois, and to this day I remember seeking out this beer because it was so special. Unfortunately, that brand has been purchased by other breweries in over history. It has been turned into much more of a general, what I would call a commodity beer than it used to be. But this is a tribute. This Sunshine and Hoppiness is a tribute to my memory of a fantastic beer that was really worth looking out for. One that looked good, one that smelled great, and one that tasted delicious. The artwork on the Sunshine and Hoppiness label was designed by my cousin Mark, who in his early part of his career worked on record labels for Virgin Records, and now has a private marketing firm doing arts and graphics. He designed this for us. He began with a partridge in a pear tree and turned it into a yellow bird on a hop bush, but the original intent of his first idea is still there. So I'm going to open a can of this beer, pour it into a glass. Show you its beautiful golden colour, its strong foam, and the beautiful bubbles rising up through it. The phenomenal golden clarity. This beer is filtered to be extremely bright and to look beautiful in a glass. Very proud of this. It's something that makes me very happy.